Hey everybody, Sean Keenan here, and in this tutorial for Touch Plus, I'm going to walk you through creating a module based rig inside of ZBrush in Maya. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started here. Let me go ahead and just jump into our Touch Plus folder here inside of our ZBrush directory, and I'm just simply going to go ahead and load my fish base. Now I'll go ahead and make sure that you guys get the fish base here and also the fish spotlight image here, okay, just so that you can follow along here. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click this, and this is going to allow me to drag out the fish base module here. Okay, so I also need to go ahead here and load the image, and what I'm going to go ahead and do now is just jump into our texture window. Okay, and you can find this here at the top as well. As you can see, texture. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click this until it shows up in the texture palette here, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit add the spotlight. And this is just so that I can shape the image of the fish here just a little bit quicker than doing it manually and without really any concept art here. Now, this is just an image that I found on Google, and I'm only using this as reference to go ahead and make our fish, and it's going to make it fairly simple to go ahead and do. So, with our Dynamesh, as you can see here, turned on, and we can go ahead and take a look here at the settings for that Dynamesh under our Geometry tab here. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and turn that project off, because with the project on, it tends to take a little bit extra time. Especially whenever I go ahead and re-Dynamesh the actual mesh of the fish. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and close this down. And for now, I'm just going to make sure that my symmetry is on by hitting X. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Move Topology brush. This way, it's going to make it much easier for me to go ahead and manipulate this shape into what we see here. Now, you're probably asking yourselves, what is a module based rig? Now, what I'm talking about is we're actually not going to have just one character inside a rig. We're going to have multiple different versions of many different fish inside the rig. I'm going to show you how to go ahead and do this. And if we go ahead and just work through our process here, it will take a little bit of time. We just have to have some fun here. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and manipulate my shape into what we need here. And I'm going to cover the entire process here, just so that you guys understand exactly what's going on here. So let's go ahead and just try and manipulate this shape here. We're just going to focus on the modeling and the sculpting part of this for now. Once we get all the retopology and stuff done, we'll go ahead and get the rigging going. So right now, what I just want to do is just make sure that I get a shape here that I'm going to be happy with. I'm not going to follow the concept art 100%. I really do want to add my own flavor here, but we're going to try and match this as best as we can and try to come up with something that's going to be at least somewhat unique here. So we'll go ahead and make sure that I turn off that wireframe here. Go ahead and switch material real quick, because I tend to like to use that mock clay. Okay, so we probably should thin this out. He's probably a little too fat here, a little too chunky. So we'll go ahead and just thin them down a little bit, maybe smooth them out. And to turn that image off, I'm just hitting Shift Z, and I'll go ahead and bring that back on here in a minute. I just want to make sure that I get a shape that I'm going to be happy with, and you can see that I'm smoothing out here to try and maintain this shape. And I'm really only trying to get a rough model of this, because whenever I retopologize this inside of ZBrush, I'll make sure that I really get everything smoothed out and make sure that everything is really going to be where I want it to be. Okay, so we probably should adjust this chin here a little more. And I'm really going to be calling this a chinner fish. There really is no such thing as a chinner fish. I'm just trying to make it at least a little bit funny here. So we'll probably pull his chin out a little more here. maybe pull this nose out some more as well. Okay. Pull this out here. Let's go ahead and mask off an area here for our rudder fin, and to do that I'm just going to simply hold down Control and paint a section out there, and then I'm going to hold down Control and left click so I invert that mask, and we'll go ahead and just pull this out here. Okay, and we will just simply shape this over. And right now this is fine, because all I'm going to really do is just shape this whenever I need to into the shape that I want. So you can see with redynameshing there, it's just going to give me the ability here to really shape this a little bit better. I'm not really 100% concerned with the actual shape for the moment, because that can always be adjusted. What I really want to do, and what I'm really taking a look at here, is just making sure that I get the shape pulled out as much as I can, because we can always form this better if need be. So this is going to be a little bit too thick, so I need to thin this out a little more, and we'll go ahead and smooth it out. Go ahead and maybe dynamesh that. Okay, so that's looking okay right now. And you'll if you notice, I'm always constantly taking a look to make sure that I'm trying to at least match the concept as close as I can. There's really no secret there. So we'll go ahead and mask out an area for that bottom fin, and we'll just go ahead here and try and pull this out to match as best we can. Okay, go ahead and dynamesh this off as well. Go ahead and smooth that out. I'm not really concerned right now with how thick that is, because I can thin it out once I go ahead and retopologize the mesh here. Okay, and I'm just taking a look at where I need to pull out the top here as well. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be about right here. I'm just trying to really just eyeball it, because I can adjust it once I retopologize here. So go ahead here and pull this out as well. Okay, and let's go ahead and pull out for our bottom fin here. And like I said, you're just going to see where this is really just a rough pull out for what is going to be the body shape, because I can spend a good amount of time here sculpting and changing this inside of ZBrush as I want. The ultimate goal and the easiest goal here is just to go ahead and make sure that we get all this stuff just pulled out to somewhat match our concept, because we can really refine that shape here in a minute. Okay, so that looks okay. So let's go ahead and redynamesh that, and that looks good. I can go ahead and turn my image off there. Okay, and we will start shaping this as needed. Now, what I'm talking about with a module system rig is we're basically going to repeat the same kind of rig or the same setup for the rig over and over and over again, just so that we have the ability for the animators to really just go in and use the same rig that's been made, but we're going to do this on a huge scale. And I've already made a bunch of different modules for the fish rig. I'm not going to go ahead and give the rig away, but I will give you guys, you know, the sculpt information here and the sculpt tool for ZBrush 4R6, just so that you guys can follow along. And I'll give you the overall rig here of just this chinnerfish, so that you guys can actually follow along here. Okay, so I think we're okay with the Dynamesh here, because once I go ahead and retopologize here, then I'll go ahead and shape the fins a little bit better. Okay, so I think that we're okay. Let's go ahead here and remesh this. I'm just going to go ahead and turn Dynamesh off there, as you can see. Z remesher, I'm going to go ahead and turn the adaptive off. I'm going to go ahead and turn the target polygon count here all the way up to 100. This way it's going to get the full mesh, and there really shouldn't be any errors once we Z remesh this. And you know, this isn't really that intense, and so it shouldn't take too long for Z remesher to go ahead and remesh this. If we could take a look at this, I think we're okay here. Let's go ahead and cut that in half in Z remesh. And this will just take a little bit of time here, because it's basically cutting this down and trying its best to cut it in half. Okay, so there you can see where our geometry has really been cut in half fairly well. So we're going to go ahead and cut this in half one more time. And now you can see where our polygon count is at least low enough where I can really manipulate this fairly easily. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just close this. And let's go ahead and start thinning all this stuff out. So we'll go ahead and thin this stuff out here, trying to make sure that we don't get this to be too thin, but we do want it to be thin enough where our light inside of Maya is actually going to go through the entire mesh. And this will be important, especially whenever we start using or start going into the texture process, and we're going to be using the for scattering shaders with V-Ray. Okay, so we just need to manipulate our mesh here. And right now I'm just focusing on getting the base that I need here. I probably need to zoom in here a little bit so I can thin this out a little bit better. And that's looking fairly decent. You can see where this just, you know, really isn't that hard. It just takes a little bit of patience and time to go ahead and get all this stuff done. And you'll notice that I really tend to use the Move Topological brush so much, especially whenever I'm starting any model. And this is really just to get that base to the point where it's going to be ready to go ahead and sculpt. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom out here. I'm just going to take a look at the rest of our body. So I need to make sure I thin out the bottom fin here, because that's way too thick. It was almost like a cigar. Go ahead and thin this out here as well. Maybe turn my smooth up a little bit. Okay. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead here and save. Oops, not export. I'm going to go ahead and save this. So we're going to call this our chinner fish. Okay, and that's important because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and jump over to Maya here. So I'll just go ahead and go Z this. We'll go ahead and throw that output window off screen there. And just make sure that we get Maya to launch here. And this will just take a second to load. And you can see that the Maya window comes in fairly large here. Okay. Also, the model is fairly large. So what I'm really looking at here is just trying to make sure that all this stuff is going to line up properly. So whenever we rig this, it's going to make it that much easier to not only retopologize it, but it's also going to make it very easy for us to go ahead and texture, as well as getting that rig to be proper. So what I need to do is go ahead and scale this down because I don't want it to be that large. And I also want to make sure that it's staying here at the 0 axis. And that's right in the middle here. If you want, go ahead and hit 5 to turn that shader system back on. Okay, we'll go ahead and just throw this back to ZBrush. And you're going to see that that updates here. Okay. And for right now, we'll just make sure that we go ahead and resave this, just so that it updates all that information that we just had done. Okay. And in the next lesson, we'll go ahead and come back and begin the sculpting process and put the details on our fish. So come on back, everybody.